That static at the end of the previous session, that goes on for what feels like days, maybe hours, um, or hours rather, but maybe days, but certainly for a very long time. Um, you start to see overlapping shapes in that static and that kind of constant noise, and those shapes kind of over time begin to form into what is you've come to be used to, what you've seen nearly 100 times at this point, over the span of a solid hour or so. That becomes clearer and clearer until you realize that you're back on the shoes again, in those same recorded states that you've been in. Your whole crew, Jack, Yorith, Elsbeth, Drew, Alice is there. But you notice floating near the helm, though, is Cetus. Fully grown, that jellycap is nearly kind of brushing the ceiling, and the tendrils are spinning and whirling over the control board, kind of appearing to mimic the kinds of motions that I had watched Drew perform dozens of times. Over the next few minutes, though, you and the rest of the team try to figure out what must have happened. Peter's upcasted teleportation may have taken you out of the Azul house and out of Odim's control, but something didn't quite work right, or you were left in limbo, or maybe seeing Cetus at the helm, maybe he had figured out how to pilot the shoes out far enough to trigger the reset and get you all back here again. The Cetus has never really shown interest or capability in interacting with the ship before, so that seems somewhat unlikely, but who knows. So what are you guys doing? Basically, you've reappeared back on the ship. You are somewhere you don't necessarily know at the moment, so what are you guys doing?
Go out on the deck and look around, see if we can figure out where we're at.
Sure. So heading out over there, the shoes is orbiting above just a deeply relaxing and calming side of a somewhat normal-looking planet. It's almost peculiar how similar it is to your own homeworld. The flora and the fauna, from what you can see, appear to be close, almost spot on to what you knew 100 years ago. The sky is blue instead of violet, and there's only one sun, but it's really damn close. And the rest of you kind of marveling out how this spot on this world is. Jack kind of dismisses himself to go and check on the Alcubierre drive again to triangulate where Apotheosis has landed. So he's kind of dismissed himself. You guys are all on the deck. You do anything?
I might just walk around and start asking people who were left on the ship if anything out of the ordinary happened while we were out.
Sure. Make an investigation check. Fucking 11. With a 11 modifier, so you rolled a 14. You pretty thoroughly check everything out. Everyone is there on the ship, exactly as they had been. Now, at the end, of course, Odim had pulled in as you had teleported into that chamber. Odim had pulled in everyone off of the ship, with the exception of Cetus, who did remain on the ship. But as far as live creatures that were there, it was pretty much only Cetus, the jellycap, the Deluxe cap rather. But everything else appears to be as you left it. And as you're kind of looking around and confirming with the crew that everyone's there and everybody seems to be whole and intact, you actually hear Jack yelling for you guys from the Alcubierre drive. He yells, guys, here, quick, hurry.
Go ahead, run for it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can hear him. The shoes isn't very massive ship or anything. So you guys rush your way into that drive chamber. You see Jack's face is lit up in the most glowing, just gleeful grin. And behind him, you see Apotheosis is still there. It's still in its containment, just whirring away as if you'd already picked it up. It just didn't break free this time, is what it looks like. He looks over at Yorth, and you see his smile begin to fade slightly. She speaks up. She says, "You guys, you know what this means, right, everybody?"
Means we can break it into pieces now, right?
She's nodding, and the widest smile growing across her face. She says, "Yeah, it means this is it. This is our chance. Jack and I can start taking Apotheosis apart. I mean, carefully, of course, and then we can build those pieces into objects and hide them. And, I mean, we'll need to find the strongest focal point of Recondidus here on this planet here to do the artificing itself. But I mean, this is it, guys. This could be our new home."
Okay.
She turns to Peter. She says, "Peter, can you try and locate the strongest nexus for Recondidus down there?"
Sure thing.
Yorith and Jack remain in that drive chamber preparing Apotheosis to, kind of take it with you guys, because you'll need to, as she's described it, take it down to the surface, wherever this point is that Peter finds, to take it apart and then build the items that you're going to put them into. So they're kind of working on that. Peter, I would say you really, this is kind of your job. I would say it's within your passive threshold, meaning you don't really need a roll to find things like this. This is kind of what you do. So I mean, you're able to locate a spot for this without much trouble. You find a cave, essentially, that it looks like it's out near a sea cave, basically, but a cave that's out kind of just off of the ocean. And you haven't gone down there to see this, but you can tell that there's a strong source of like a polar exit there. Alice, Elsbeth, and Drew walk out on the bridge and then onto the deck. Alice in particular seems to be the most affected. You never knew where she was from, her homeworld. She wasn't from the beach world where you guys found her. She showed up there somehow. She never knew how. But as she described it, it was a dim and dangerous place, though. And it seems that the thought of this kind of vibrant and somewhat peaceful world being her new home is a pretty happy one for her. But Peter, you find the spot. Didn't take that long. The planet seems to have this kind of polar axis, like a pillar of the Raconda that really goes straight down through the middle of it. Both ends are glowing with this arcane emanation. It's not visible to the eye, but you're able to sense it, of course. One end of it appears to be in a somewhat inhospitable place, like these craggy mountains of permafrost, but the other end is just inside of this sea cave that you found. It's kind of in the middle of a pleasant green field at the edge of a cliff that goes off into the ocean, just south of this huge major city. From your readings, though, this cave itself seems to be uninhabited. You don't see people coming or going or anything. The circumstances seem almost ideal, though, to follow through with what Yorick's and Jack's plan was. What are Kitas and Ivar doing?
I'd probably just be checking on Cetus, since we apparently left him on the ship by himself.
I'm going to be staying.
What'd you?
I was just going to say I'm staying with Jack and Yorth the entire time to make sure nothing happens while they're trying to pick apart the apotheosis.
Okay.
Staying guard.
They're not taking it apart yet. They don't want to disassemble it and then move. They want it to, because there's more risk of it, something breaking. So they want to take it down to the surface, break it apart, and then you guys make your items all at the same time, basically, all together. So there's less, moving parts, essentially. For Nivara, make a nature check. Not a great roll, but your modifier's enough. I'll note this as well. I've mentioned this before in a couple of cycles, but Cetus was the only thing that had not been resetting back to, Cetus and that crystal, for example, anything that you brought on. But you guys, heading started, as you guys kind of at the outset had these recorded states each year, you've been returned back to your kind of previous age and previous stature, physical state, etc. Kita still has a bruise on his jaw each time this resets. Cetus does not reset, though. He's actually continued to grow throughout this. He hasn't been, kind of cycling back every year. So you've seen him slowly grow over time, but it hasn't been, a dramatic change all at once or anything of that sort. In looking him over, you do notice that he's ever so slightly bigger than you expected, because he hasn't stopped growing. He's continued to grow at this kind of steady, slow pace. But the amount of time that you were gone, you didn't experience it seeming all that long, but he seems larger than he should have been if it was just a matter of, a week or a few hours or a few days. You don't really know how long that limbo occurred for. But it seems like it was longer than you thought or longer than you felt. And, maybe he got the ship out or something of that sort. But it just maybe took him a while because he doesn't know how to fly a ship, that kind of thing. But otherwise, he does seem to be okay. He's not doesn't seem to be hurt or anything. He is, in fact, when you guys have shown back up, he is just clearly very elated. He keeps spinning and spinning and just kind of spinning around and taking his tendrils, kind of flipping them around a bit, like a dress kind of a thing, like a dancing, like a square dance style dress, that kind of thing, almost, where it just kind of lifts up and floats out. But he just seems very happy, of course, to be there and wants to kind of hang out with you guys. He'll keep following you around and that kind of thing here on the ship. But, it takes Yorth and Jack take a little while kind of getting everything ready to go. But once they have it all packed up and everything, you guys have located the spot on the surface there. Jack kind of suggests hurrying down and creating those items just to keep Apotheosis from reassembling and sending out that beacon. Basically, you guys are trying to rush to get this done before that signal can be sent out from Apotheosis that would tell the Hunger that it's here. So they've got it all ready to go. Everybody's kind of prepared to head down. Are you guys ready to go, or is there anything else you needed to do on the ship first?
I don't think so.
so.
I'm good.
Okay. Drew tells you, he says, guys, I'm going to stay here with the ship, but we don't yet know how the locals here are going to react, and I'm not really needed down there anyway. I never really got the hang of artificing myself, so I'm just going to drop you off in the field nearby the cave, and then I'll take the shoes back and hide it behind that white moon up there. You know, just hide out. Sound good?
Yeah.
Basically, the 7 of you then, minus Drew, because it would be 8, of course, are going to go. They all need to go down because everybody will need to kind of create their own item. Yoris says, but before we go, though, I think maybe we should disguise ourselves just in case we come across those locals and maybe they're drawn to Apotheosis. I mean, I can make it easier for us to blend in the future since it seems like we're going to be staying here a while. She says, look, I'll take care of it. Just everybody gather around. I'll just do something simple. Keep our own looks, but I'll just squish them down a little bit. Especially Peter, certainly, and probably Ketis, with your arcane awareness, you recognize she's casting a spell called Seeming to alter your appearance in this kind of illusory haze. It's not physically changing anything, it's just an illusion. But what she's done, though, she says there, all right, that ought to do it. Now we all kind of just look like we're made out of this thin wax on a hot as balls day. And she's kind of mushed your features up enough to not be recognizable, so if you go back later on, they won't necessarily, if you're seen, they won't know who you are. But you make your way down. Drew takes the ship down over the surface into this kind of wide open field. Now there is a huge city in the distance, and the shoes was almost certainly seen. There's other villages nearby and so on that you would be visible to, but there is no one in this open field. So you're able to kind of extricate yourselves from the ship and get down onto the surface. The spot that Peter, that you found, you kind of head over there, and you can sense where the source is coming from. Like, it's something you can just innately tell where it is. So you kind of lead the group to this opening, this cave opening, but it's just a straight drop down for about 15 feet. So it's not something. There's a rope there to be able to climb down into it, but there's no. It's not like there's stairs or anything. Basically, you got to climb your way down this. So you guys, assuming you're going down, you guys, kind of carefully climb down into it. And the inside of this cave feels immediately very cold. There's this constant echoing sound of booming waves that are kind of coming through it, that are coming from somewhere to the northeast. They're not on this side of the cave. They're from the far side of the cave. They're kind of just echoing into where you are. The walls are kind of dripping with water. There's a little bit of snow. Just from probably, it's not even snow as much as it is just wet sand that has a very cold feel to it. All kind of at this mouth to this cave. I'm going to go and show you guys the map. There you go. There you guys are in the entrance to this cave. Walls are very damp and slick, like pretty much every surface is slick in here. There's something that the booming sound of water is kind of filling this whole cavern with like this thin mist that is coating everything. So every surface is slippery. It's very easy to slip and fall, it feels like. And then there's this constant echo going. But otherwise, you're in this cave. What are you guys doing? It will be all of you. I'm just going to use Jack's token to represent everybody else. So you guys are all on there, and then Jack will just be Yorith himself, Alice, and Elizabeth. What are you guys doing?
Alright. So is that more water in front of us? Or to the north,
so
west, or
straight
northeast?
ahead of you, you guys are kind of on this steep landing it's very steep and slippery, that is leading off towards that, and that's basically a small cliff edge that drops down another 10 feet or so into just rock, just wet rock.
Alright. And that's the only way to go, I'm assuming?
You would need to go down further. Peter, in sensing where it is, can tell that you guys need to head to the northeast. You're where there's the polar source of Recondidus is to the northeast, and that's where Yorth wants to go to break this apart and then use that to forge your items.
I do have some rope. I can help everybody get down. I'll
I
stay.
can do some feather fall on people. If,
Yeah,
if necessary.
Yorith comes over, and as Peter's saying that, she's like she's walking over to the edge very carefully, of course, to look over without falling off, and she kind of chuckles at you. She says, "Rope, come on." Then she just kind of grins at you and hops off the edge and slowly kind of is lowered down to the edge.
Toki knows about that.
So she's down there. She goes, as she's down there, she just starts firing off Featherfall for Alice and Elspeth and everybody else, basically. She says, "I'll burn these, Peter. Don't worry about it."
All right, thank you.
All right. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
All right. So everybody makes it down to here. You can see there's 2 points that you can leave this chamber from. There's one to the northwest and one to the east.
You guys want to stick together, or you want to split up?
Can you guys even hear the ambient, or no? Is that too quiet?
No, I can hear it.
Okay. It's super quiet on my side. As long as you guys can hear it, it's okay.
You guys want to go to the right?
Okay.
All right. You're basically losing light at this point. So Yorothan, looking around, both her and Jack put up their own dancing lights above, just so that there's enough to kind of fill the whole chamber. She says, "Peter, you can throw yours too. I mean, I think we're okay, but if you want to, go right ahead."
Yeah, I'll throw some dancing lights around us. Ketis and Navarra, myself.
All right. Let me get master here. You can see that it actually opens up into kind of another cave. And this looks like it's been carved out. It almost looks like a mine, because some parts of it look like they were carved away, and other parts look like natural chambers, like just natural cave formations. But it opens up like that. So there's a small tunnel that immediately goes off, and then it opens into a wider chamber that the ceiling is much higher in. You do hear very faint kind of chirping almost sounds coming from that larger chamber. But that's what you can see so far. Looks like there's multiple exits out of the larger chamber.
You guys want me to test for bats or something?
Holy shit, did the rain just start like instantly pouring super hard? Talco, is it raining all of a sudden really hard near you?
No, it just looks overcast.
I think it might even be hail, like all of a sudden. Anyway, go ahead.
I could turn into a bat and fly in there.
Yeah, they don't sound like familiar sounds. It sounds like a creature you guys may not be familiar with. Something that might be native to this planet that you guys have not experienced before.
You want me to just try and spook them away, or you want me to? Because it'll pretty much give our position away.
Make a perception check on Peter. Hang on 1 second. I'm gonna open the window while you're doing that. I want to see. Yeah, it's not hail. It's just really, really hard rain all of a sudden.
Yes.
Out of nowhere. Anyway. Okay. Even with a 5, damn. That's what level 20 gets you, I guess. Peter specifically, you noticed that the chirping sounds, this kind of scraping sounds mixed with these chirping sounds are they happened as soon as you guys put the lights up. They might have been there before, but just really quiet, so that you weren't really paying too much attention. But they got much louder and much more pronounced as soon as you put the lights up.
What do you guys want to do? Go dark and walk, or throw up a fireworks show?
Make a perception check on Navarra.
I don't care. We can get him out of there.
Two things. You rolled a 17 plus 10, so fucking 27, but I think I should have been more diligent about adjusting DCs up super high for you guys being high level. You're breathing right on the mic. Two things that you notice though, Navarra. One, the kinds of sounds and the reaction, you can kind of intuit that these are probably nocturnal creatures and they don't see much light. So they've probably been disturbed by the light, whatever it is. It's clearly alive based on the sound. So you're gathering they're probably something close to a bat, maybe, in that you're hearing these kind of sounds coming from, most likely, the ceiling. They're coming from above, basically, in this other chamber. And the skittering sounds that occurred right after the light means they probably don't see very much light is all. And the rain stopped already. Jeez. Anyway, but coming from further from the opposite end of that chamber, where it seems to go off that direction, there's a very noxious fungal kind of a smell, like a very poisonous fungal smell coming from further through that chamber.
Okay. I could always turn into a bat and fly in there and see what happens. At least kind of get a look at what they look like.
If you want to.
We could do a dynamic entry.
It's fine too.
Does that involve explosions of some kind? That sounds like it involves explosions of some kind.
It's the second time he's mentioned it, so.
If if they're bats and they don't like light, something like a fireworks show or sunburst or something might disrupt them slightly. Although if we have a noxious gas, we don't know if it's flammable. But I guess a prestidigitation with a fireworks show might be fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
Alright, so I'm just going to chuck out I guess the equivalent of like a flashbang with my prestidigitation and do a little light show.
Okay. So what's the range is probably enough. I can't imagine it's super short. What's prestidigitation range look like?
It's 10 feet, so I'll have to move forward a little bit.
Okay, alright. Yeah, I mean, being a cantrip, it probably would be pretty low. Alright, so you'd need to, yeah, probably about there is fine. Especially with the kind of bright flash from it would fill that chamber. The skittering, of course, does get much louder as you've gotten closer. And as you set that off, there's immediate screeching sounds and the fluttering of wings. You catch view from your angle. You can catch that there's dozens in here. There's probably 30 or 40 of these small. They're about a foot tall creatures with very weird shaped wings that don't seem like they would be efficient. But you haven't gotten a close enough look at this, and you're not a biologist. In the way that Navarra is, but they resemble like bat / mosquitoes a bit. They look a bit like this. But they skitter all over the place and are just going in all. They don't go your direction, but they all kind of split up and go. Some go north, some go east, some go south, but basically into the other exits from this chamber to get away from that light. They don't appear to be threatening you in any way. They're trying to flee.
All right, noted.
Cool. I
But
figured they were gonna
now that you're closer, you're picking up that same kind of a noxious, like, cloying smell. It feels choking, like you'd have trouble breathing if you get it too much closer to the east. What'd you say, G? Figure something?
Well, I was just saying, I figured they were all going to come flying right at us, so we got lucky.
They don't like light.
Alright, so was there an entrance north of where Peter is?
Yeah.
Or another way?
Yeah, there's another
What
tunnel
do you guys
that leads
think?
off to the north. In fact, actually, from where Peter is now, you can see that it opens up a little bit more, like this. It opens up to the left a little bit, and then to the right, and then that right one actually goes further down a little ways.
What do you guys think?
Keep pushing forward. North, I guess east is getting a little stinky.
Cool.
Make a perception check on Peter. You, for the briefest moment, as you're kind of turning north and heading this direction, you felt a strong surge of arcane energy, like a localized arcane energy, from the center of that chamber. But you turn and look, and there was just a slightest flash, but you couldn't really tell. Maybe it was a reflection off of a rock of your flashbang prestidigitation or something of that sort. But there was definitely an arcane energy source that was not you, that was only there for a second and then disappeared.
All right.
Yorth she's made her way over and is kind of looking, at the bits of a wing here or a leg there that are just barely visible in the outside of the chamber, of the creatures that are there. She says they don't. I mean, they almost could be cute, maybe, but I don't know. I don't like that face. That seems like that's made for sucking blood or something. That I don't want to mess with them.
Can I just walk into the room and, as long as it's not too choking, just do an investigation on that area that I got sense from?
Yeah. The spot where this is where it's coming from, where that arrow's pointing off to the east. That's where the strong, like basically, if you go too far into that tunnel, you won't be able to breathe very well. That's what you feel like. But in this chamber, you can walk into the oh, I thought I could delete them. The flash from the middle of this room. Make an Arcana check. In looking around, you're having trouble kind of locating the source because arcane energy can't just disappear. It can move, but it can't just disappear. Like you should still, unless it left this plane, basically, you should have felt it move from one location to another. Even teleportation still leaves a trail, essentially. And at first you're not able to pick it up, but when you stand exactly where you felt where you kind of saw it and felt the power come from, which is about there, as soon as you're standing in that space, you can just barely catch the trail, and it feels very old. It feels like this didn't just happen. You just saw some kind of an echo of it, essentially. And that echo, that trail that went behind, went to the south.
What do you think, guys? Follow it?
Sounds like them.
Sure.
All right.
All right. At this time, I'll probably pull Toki out as well.
Okay. Get mask mode back on here. All right. Looking down this tunnel, you can see. I'll grab Toki and put him on here for you. But you look down that tunnel, you can see that it opens to the left and to the right, and at the end of it, it's kind of caved in a little bit. It seems. Oh, Toki's a bad guy. There you go.
Good old cave-ins bringing flashbacks of root beer barrel candies.
Almost, yeah. I mean, it is kind of a mine shaft with with Cassidy, I think it was. And Hetty.
Yeah, but we wouldn't remember that.
No, that's in the future.
I got that far yet.
You're getting future flashbacks. But you can see
master
down
of
this.
divination.
That's true. Yeah, when you're rolling your bones, you're getting flashes of what's going to happen in the future. Where you meet a crazy old lady that blows shit up and likes root beer barrels, and complains about gerblins all the time.
You want to just throw Toki out as recon because Toki's like that.
He likes
Sure.
being disposable.
All right, just kind of recon a little bit out there with him, and I'll
Okay.
send one of my dancing lights to go above him.
When he looks into this chamber here, on his left, he looks in there and sees two short-statured bodies laying against the table there. Long dead, like not even bodies so much as just all very, very old skeletons. The attire they're garbed in is strange to you, but of course everything on this planet would be. It's not, where you're from, but the stature of them is similar to the dwarves that you're familiar with. They're, very short and stout skeletons, and the garb would be similar to that as well, just not, designed fashionably in the way that you would have expected, of course.
You guys want to search those bodies, see if there's anything of use?
Okay. Cool.
All right, make investigation checks. Whoever's looking. You kind of carefully, you know, trying to be respectful of these creatures that you don't know, of course, and in this place you don't know, without trying to disturb the dead too abruptly. You carefully look through them. They have, you know, very old, very badly rusted and damaged gear from being in this very wet cave for so long. They're, you know, ferrous metals, similar to what you're used to, and ferrous metals rust. So that there, you know, isn't nothing of value. Certainly, there is an old journal on one of them that was under his hand. It actually looked like either when he died or soon before, he was holding this journal under his hand. It's very small. You know, it's kind of index card size or so, brown leather. It is mostly since rotted away, but it's just so soaked that even kind of pulling the hand away and starting to look at it, it's like one solid thing. Like you can't really get very many pages open to look at it. Are you trying to do anything with it, or are you just going to leave it be? What are you chuckling at?
No, our dumb cat. He always has to be right here on the couch with us when we're playing. He sits right behind Becky and gets in the way. He presses buttons on the keyboard.
What are you doing, G?
Oh, yeah, I'll check out the journal. If I can.
Make a sleight of hand check. It's pretty badly damaged. It's pretty tough to really get any open pages that you can still read. And if it was anybody other than you, without the aid of our Arcana modifications, they wouldn't be able to read the words anyways. But you are able to get enough of them that aren't it's like not melted, what's what I'm looking for, like where the ink hasn't run because of the water, basically, or been molded up and things like that. You find near the end of the journal, the last couple of pages that you are able to kind of peel open and read some of it, is a letter from presumably the guy that's holding this, and it's writing back to whomever was important to him. You can't pick out names and things like that very much, or at least in this case, just because what's visible isn't all that intuitive. But it's the last notes of this person, the last letter this person wrote, presumably, stating that they're coming, and we don't have the defenses to hold them off anymore, and they're going to make it in, and I'm going to do my best. I hope this journal makes it to you, that kind of thing. But basically, it's these guys were clearly defenders of some sort of this cavern, and something came in after them, and they died in the effort.
Are there any etchings in the walls or anything like that? You know,
No,
like Helm's Deep?
the whole place is very austere. There's almost no decorations of any sort. Everything is kind of utilitarian. Even the furniture that these guys are leaning against is old carved stone, but it's not even carved very smoothly. Like whereas you almost might expect that if it was a place of, you know, that was going to be intended to, you know, last for a long time or anything else, if it was anything more than utilitarian, they might have made, you know, nice smooth stone tables and things like that. But these are relatively rough, and everything seems to be in pretty bad shape.
Alright, I'll tell the team what I read on what I picked up from the journal.
Sure. Make a perception check on Ketis. When you stand back up and look, you know, kind of out this way before you kind of make your way around the corner to head, you know, back up to the chamber where everybody else is, when you look this direction towards this chamber, you can see most of it pretty clearly, even from where you are, just from the dancing lights that are bouncing around. It's clear that they were using this as kind of a small burial chamber, but there was definitely a humanoid shape glowing slightly in the middle of that room that was watching you, that was like facing you, staring at you. You stood up, and as you kind of started to go that way, it just dissipated, and it's gone. And Peter, when that happened, or as he's coming around the corner, you sensed that arcane source coming from, you know, that direction.
No, it looks like somebody disappeared. Somebody was gone. They disappeared.
It was dressed. It was definitely humanoid. You know, 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 legs, etc. Dressed in certainly strange garb, not something you would have been, again, with the kind of the fashion of it, would not have been recognizable to you, but in the kind of universally consistent arcane style, like a mage. You gather it was probably a mage of some kind.
Okay, yeah, then I'll tell the team that.
Okay. And bejeweled, like in a expensive attire, looked like, had jewelry and things like that. Like, it looks like it was probably of some import.
Cool. Okay. And is there anything interesting in here?
Make an investigation check. While you guys are looking, Elsbeth and Yorth are both kind of trying to rush people along a little bit. Like, guys, we need to get moving. I'm afraid this thing's going to send this signal at any time now. You look through it pretty thoroughly, and there doesn't seem to be. There's a lot of basically the small stone sarcophagus, or sarcophagi rather, all contain similar bodies in stature to those that were on the other side. They probably died a little earlier because they had been buried, of course, or at least put away like this. But the equipment and everything that's on them is pretty badly damaged and rusted and so on. So there doesn't appear to be anything of value beyond maybe historical sense. Which, of course, this isn't your history necessarily, so you wouldn't necessarily even care about the historical value.
If it sounds like we gotta rush it, you guys want to split up a little bit?
Well, you know exactly where you need to go. You can sense it specifically. In Yorth to a lesser extent as well. Although she's kind of holding, between her and Jack, are holding Apotheosis, and that would drown out some of their senses. But you have kind of a divining rod towards where you need to go.
Head that way?
That's to the northeast, though, right?
Yep.
That's where the stink is. You guys just want to see how far we can go before the stink becomes overwhelming?
See if we can, dash for it.
Yorth says, I mean, Navarre, you could probably blow it all out anyway, right? That's
yeah, I think
your
you've
bag.
got wind wall or something like that. Hang on. Somewhere around in here.
She says, I've got small things like gust and things like that. I don't know how much of it would blow out, but between us, we could probably get it figured out.
Let's do it. It's an enclosed tunnel, so the air pressure should push it through.
Cool.
Okay, you
I thought it
guys...
had control wind.
I don't think it's called... Maybe there is one called control wind. But there's... you definitely have something because you used it in Dry Gulch. You were using it under keeping the bugs away, remember? Off of the train tracks? Little cart.
Yeah, it's control winds.
Where is it?
Level 5.
Okay. Let's see. Concentration. Up to an hour. Yeah, this will be fine. You'd be able to make gusts with it, basically, to blow the air out in front of you. Okay, so you hold this up and kind of just keeping your hands out, extended in front of you, just keep this kind of swirling vortex, almost tornado-like, out of your hands towards the, out through this tunnel, and begin to push your way through it. You see just up ahead, there's this glowing green light that is kind of this bioluminescent light that's coming off of the, these spores and these mushrooms and just constant fungal growth in this cavern up here. You guys can go and move your tokens in as I open this up, but basically it opens into this wide cavern that is covered in very dense fungal vegetation all over the floor. And every time you even step on it, you're kind of having to go first just to keep most of this blown up, because every step, when you squish into this fungal flooring, it releases this cloud of spores that you immediately would be breathing in otherwise, but are caught up in this kind of whirlwind that you're sending out and blowing out in through this. You can see the mushrooms are like being tipped over in front of you from the force of the wind. But it's kind of knocking out enough of this stuff out and then up to the north, it looks like, where basically to the left, and up through there. Most of it's kind of, you can see almost a cloud of it blowing through where these spores are so thick in the air that, you can see them swirling around inside of it as you're kind of blowing out the dense collection that's in this room. But you have kind of made a way for you to be able to walk your way up to the north here without choking on it. You guys doing that?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Here.
Right. From there, you can see, especially with the dancing lights and everything, you can see where this chamber opens up. There is a small stone building off to the right, it seems like. Doesn't look like there's much of use in there that you can see. It looks like it's largely supplies and things like that. But then there is a set of stone steps. There's a cliff in front of you, basically, and a set of stone steps that go up that cliff. The steps are right here. I'll draw the arrow kind of across them. Basically there, that actually goes the other direction. Stone stairs go up. The arrow is pointing at the base of the stairs. But basically a stone step that it goes up. But as soon as you've kind of pushed your way through this and everybody's kind of gathering in behind you before the clouds begin to settle, before all the air gets bad again, everybody's kind of rushed out of this chamber to where it's not, going to settle back on them. You, in looking at the top of those stairs, see a ghostly figure similar to what Ketis described, dressed in robes and very opulent garb, and is holding his staff and is pointing out towards the cave entrance you just came out of, and you see arcane energies flying off of the staff as if it was casting things towards this entrance, but he's not looking at you. They don't appear to be, this ghost doesn't appear to be paying you any attention. It's like it's reacting to something that isn't there. And then it disappears.
I guess try to follow where it's going, I guess?
It was at the top of the stairs, and it was kind of firing off a spell of some kind at the cave entrance that you guys just came out of, where Jack's token is.
Can I sense anything arcane in this room right now?
Yep, very much so. The source that you are coming in for, the kind of polar nexus, is just up at the top of those stairs. The kind of mobile arcane source that you've sensed a couple times reappeared with that ghost and then disappeared again with that ghost. But your goal, your place that you're trying to get to, is just at the top of those stairs, just right behind that.
You guys want to search that area while we go up those stairs?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You climb your way up to the top of the stairs. You feel that kind of same kind of cold in your bones almost when you walk through the space where the ghost had been. And the chamber itself, I gotta get used to leaving basketball on, I guess. The chamber that you've kind of stepped up into looks like this. It looks like there's a spot off to the side, and you notice that once you've stepped in here, the ceiling for this part of the chamber, you weren't really noticing this when the ghost appeared, but now that you are kind of looking around, the ceiling in this whole chamber, this is one big chamber that you guys are in, basically from where Jack's token is all the way up to those things in the north. It's one large chamber. The ceiling is the same all the way across for all of it. You've just gone upstairs, kind of inside this room, essentially. But the ceiling all the way across is covered in these glistening rocks. Like these rocks are almost harryite, basically, like a fool's gold type. That they're kind of glittering like stars in the sky, almost. But there is I shouldn't probably have revealed that part, but this, basically, the room that you guys are next to, that kind of inset square right here, I'll go ahead and draw a square on it so you see which one I'm talking about. This is a broken, a badly broken and damaged square chamber where you can see through the wall in some places, but the opening is on the left side, basically. Just north of Peter a little ways. And there's something moving inside there for sure.
Can I tell from where I'm at if the damage has come from the outside in, or if the damage came from the inside blowing out?
Make a perception check. Natural 20. It looks pretty uniform. It looks like it's more age than destruction. There probably are bits and pieces where you see some singe marks and things like that. But for the most part, it appears to be age, or maybe the age has taken over where earlier damage of violence or destruction had occurred.
You guys just want to rush in and get the job done?
From your angle, you can actually see what's in there. There's something moving in there.
Very stealthily, I'll move Toki just to kind of get a better eye.
Okay. When Toki's head peeks around the corner of that doorway to look inside, you all hear kind of loud, it almost booms through here just because you haven't heard a voice in here other than your own whispers, basically. It's a very polite and almost cheerful sounding, well, hello.
He likes cats.
From the holes in the walls I would say you guys, between the three of you, could probably piece together the kind of thing, but from individual bits, unless you're trying to get a peek at what it is that's moving in there, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get the full view. Toki could, but not the rest of you.
Yeah, I think we've given our position anyway. Might as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. Then, when you come around the corner, what you see there... did I have my VA? Give me 1 sec. What you see in there, floating inside this chamber... First, the chamber itself is kind of lit by this dim green glow. There is something on the far wall that looks like the lower mandible, the lower jaw, of a very large lizard-like creature. A dragon, maybe, of some sort. Just the lower jaw of it, and inside of it is kind of green, arcane glow that's coming from it, and that is certainly the source of what you've been kind of coming after. This is where it's coming out. But floating in the room is the thing that very politely said hello is a floating ball almost, with an eye in the center of it and a very unhappy, very kind of scary looking mouth filled with teeth and a long tongue, and sticking out of either side of this floating ball are 2 eye stalks, for a total of 4 eye stalks, and at the end of those are 4 smaller eyes. It looks like this.
Oh, damn it. Alright. I'm assuming at this point Peter kind of knows what that is, huh?
They are extraplanar, so maybe. I would say that he probably would have an idea. I don't know whether he's either met one or not, maybe not. But when you guys have come around and are now visible through the doorway there, it's similar to the kind of polite, if confused, greeting that it had for Toki. It says, "Oh, I didn't know we had visitors." Well, hello.
Hi.
What is your name?
Hello.
Nobara.
Keys.
Peter.
Well, it's nice to meet you guys. And you see that the eye stalks, one of each of those eye stalks is pointing at each of you and one at Toki. Yorith is kind of giggling. She's off around the corner a little bit, just like kind of giggling, like you know, she sensed maybe the tense, response, like maybe this is going to be a fight, and then it just sounds very cordial. So she's kind of giggling to herself.
Can I just ask the creature, who are you, and maybe come in?
Oh, you can't come in, no. I'm kind of important. You can't come in here. He tells you his name, though. He says, "My name is Koro Zeke Zeke."
Nice to meet you, Koro Zeke Zeke. So you say you're important. What?
Oh, I'm real important.
What's your importance around here? We're new around here, so we're kind of learning.
I mean, I'm the boss.
What are you the boss of?
You see the orb kind of turn left and turn right and looking around as if, like, that's kind of a dumb question. Like, I mean, look at all this. Look at this majesty. And it's an old, rundown, broken, forge.
It's nice. Yeah.
Do Ben and Becky
we really
recognize? Do Ben and Becky recognize what you're seeing?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
Becky did before, and I didn't remember where we were until we got to the fungal area. Because Becky did, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Where?
So.
How far in did you recognize it, Becky? I was curious.
Just after we jumped down when we found the dwarf bodies.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that chamber is where you found them originally, which is part of why I had to be careful that you guys didn't disturb stuff, because this is in the past still. So I had to be somewhat careful that you guys, didn't go breaking things or something. Like, you understand narratively where this is too, right? Compared to
This is a
Yeah.
bit before Rose and Thorn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's,
Before we were here.
10 or 12 years before, somewhere thereabout.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry for Sako, that wouldn't make any sense for you right now. But that's Korozix. He has introduced himself as he's kind of the boss. He's kind of the guardian here. And that's why you can't come in. Elsbeth has stepped around now, by the way, and she's stepped around kind of behind you, Peter. She's got her arm kind of on your shoulder, and is just peeking in and trying to maybe offer assistance in any way.
What do you guys think? You want to tell them what's going on, or?
He says, "I'm all down for stories. What's going on? What are you guys' names again?"
Fine with me.
Nivara?
The eye
Did
stalk
we just do this?
that was facing you had turned to look towards Elsbeth, and then he kind of snaps back over you. He says, "You kind of look like a Nivara." What are you doing here again?
We really like your forge here. We want to see if we could check it out a little bit closer.
Isn't it awesome?
It's really nice. We like it.
He kind of brings the eye stalks down and kind of taps them against above the eye, like he's kind of beating his chest at how proud he is. He's like, "And they made me the guardian here. 100 years."
Well, we were hoping to find someone of importance, and you look pretty important and pretty smart, and
Oh, I'm tough too.
we don't.
I'm real tough.
You're tough too. That's good to know. But we don't know if you can help us.
While you're talking, he interrupts you and holds his eye stalks up towards the ceiling and starts shaking them the way that a little kid might shake a toy gun, like pew, 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 pew. And he's firing off nothing. Nothing's coming out of the eye stalks. He says, "Yeah, I'm real tough." You can keep going. He just is interrupting you because he has a very short-term memory, as you've gathered.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we were looking for someone important, and luckily we stumbled onto you. But we don't think you have the skills to help us out. But maybe we could chat for a little.
Maybe somebody tougher could.
You guys are gonna get killed. The mouth twists in a very disappointed frown. He says, "Wow, guests come into my house and talk to me in such a way? I don't know that I can be friends with you anymore. What are your names again?"
Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. I'm Ketis. Yeah.
Make a persuasion roll. On Ketis. He says, "Have we? You do look a little bit familiar." He kind of stops and you see that he turns off to the side a little bit. He says, I don't remember things so good no more."
Yeah, they had me working somewhere else, but then they told me to come back because we needed to check out the forge. They wanted me to look at the forge.
Oh,
and I know that.
They want me to be your boss now?
Yeah. But they said that I need to help you look at the forge. And my friends.
Oh, all right. Well, okay. Here you
They
go.
work for us too. Yeah.
He kind of steps off to the side. He says, "It's right there. I mean, you can go ahead and look at it. What is it? Maintenance day or something?"
Yeah. Just want to make sure everything's still running good. Come on, guys.
Tools.
Thank you.
Usually you'd have tools. Where are your tools?
Oh, just investigating it, and then I'll come back, and if it needs to be fixed, I'll come back and fix it.
When he asks that and you start to answer, Yorith kind of steps by and steps straight into the room. You've been the only one invited in, but she just, kind of says fuck it and is trying to walk in. She says, "I've got the tools right here. I brought them with me.
Oh,
I'm
great.
his helper." She says, "I'm his helper," kind of pointing at you. She's holding Apotheosis.
Yeah, she's much more organized than me. That's why they're ever working with us. Thank you.
He says, "Wait, does that mean I get to be your boss too?" To Yorith. She says, "Sure. Yeah. No, we're all in this together, right? One big team." He kind of nods very frantically. He says, "Okay, well, I'll just be out of your hair then." He kind of floats over to the corner and just sitting there, floats over to the corner, but could not be paying any more attention. Like, is just enraptured watching every single move. He doesn't seem like he doesn't get a lot of excitement, and he forgets every bit of excitement he does get anyway. So, he's very intently focused on what you guys are doing. But you've kind of made it into this chamber, gotten approval for the rest of you to come in and kind of get to work here. So, you guys doing anything in particular, or are you just helping with Jack and Yorth?
Yeah, I'm just gonna help with them, and then
Yeah.
just talk to Korozisi and just keep the story going whenever I need
Okay,
to.
okay, that's actually good because he was going to
Because
get
he's gonna
bored
forget.
eventually.
So yeah,
So I
Yeah.
specifically had notes in here to make sure that he got bored because he forgets things constantly. So I was going to have him get bored and start kind of getting in the way. But if you're trying to run interference, if you're running interference, that might help a bit. So
One of us has to jingle keys.
There we go. Yeah.
So with Ketis kind of running interference and keeping him distracted, Yorth and Jack go to the forge and begin kind of working with Apotheosis. You see them basically pull out this, and now that you've always seen it, but it always has this kind of bright glow, and there's something about this room that the kind of bright arcane power that's coming from this forge already is they're kind of neutralizing each other a little bit. So you can see the orb a lot clearer. You actually were able to pick out a little bit of this before, but it's a big 20-sided shape, like a big orb, and as they're kind of looking at it, they'd already studied this quite a bit. Jack had already kind of mentally drawn lines of where this would need to come apart, where this facet will cut here, and will cut along this line here, and so on. So Yorth, as they're kind of beginning to go through this, she says, all right, so, I mean, you guys may know some of this, but we found seams, essentially, inside Apotheosis, just places where it felt like it had been kind of sewn together. So we've cut along those seams here, and these are the individual pieces that we've come up with, and they've kind of pulled it apart, and you see they've kind of laid out these 7 pieces here. Jack pulls each one of them up carefully out of this kind of forge, this hole where that's basically the mouth of this thing, and kind of places them along this cloth that he's laid out. One of them is a big cylinder with spiraling ends on it. So basically, if you took like a big can, like a soup can or something, and then put big spiraling ends at both sides of it. One of them looks like a giant arrowhead, like a much too large diamond shape, like an arrowhead shape almost. One of them is just a very long, thin strip that they've just kind of rolled up. Another one is a small disc with a hole in the middle. Another one is a thin lens. Another one that's kind of an oval shape with little notches on the back. And then the last is these 2 bowl shapes that are connected in the middle. For bonus points, can you guys guess which piece you take and what you make out of it? Do you understand what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't know which one I'd be associated with.
Yours
If I thought about it more, I'm sure I would.
Yeah, yours isn't super connected. Peter's is for sure, although that may be somewhat obscure, and Navarro's is a little bit clearer too. Any ideas?
I'd have to flip back through my notes.
Well, I know which one Peter does. I'm trying to figure out what mine is.
If you keep thinking, you'll figure out what yours is for sure too. And Peter, yours. How much do you remember from Dry Gulch? It was like your second, I guess, technical arc that you played with us. But it was basically the first arc, I think, was through the Crystal Kingdom, wasn't it?
I think so. I vaguely remember the axe smashing the ground or something. The hammer smashing the ground with her.
That was your intro, and that was the one that Ketis chose. So Ketis, we'll go through them here, but you picked out the cylinder with the spirals on the end, and the item that you chose to kind of build around it is a giant hammer, and that is kind of inside the head of the hammer, where this kind of cylinder is the head of it, with these spirals coming off the side that you've kind of styled in the form of ram's horns on the ends of both sides of it. It's certainly a very destructive but also protective item, and has kind of significant control over material form. So breaking through rock and dirt and just the physical material matter, really, essentially. Just physical matter. Did you figure out yours, Becky?
Oh, I think I got mine.
No, I can't figure it out.
You
Can't
pick up
remember.
that long, thin strip, and over the span of the next couple of hours while you guys are designing these, you have twisted it into a long whip that you have called the Vine Lash, which is a long wit essentially of this kind of vine-like natural material. Which, of course, I mean, you remember what the vine lash does? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yorith pulls out the kind of little oval, kind of egg shape almost, and she styles a very stylish, bright red cloak out of it, and uses that little clasp as kind of the connecting piece around the neck where the cloak would kind of attach to it to hold it together. And she makes the Firestorm cloak. Jack takes some time, and he takes the kind of flat disc with a hole in the middle, and he calls it a ring, but you guys know it's not a ring. It doesn't even look like a ring, but he calls it the Caudicus ring, and kind of creates this alteration style powerful artifact from this. Elsbeth takes her time and takes the two bowls and carefully separates the two, and she builds a scale out of it, a weight scale, where you could put something in one side, something in the other, and kind of compare the two. And she makes the Statera scales out of it. And the last of, second Alice takes the lens, the kind of thin lens of Apotheosis there, and she forms the oculus out of it. And then Peter, you take the last remaining item there, which was the too large arrowhead, and you kind of you make a spear a staff rather, that because of this kind of tipped arrowhead on it, it wouldn't be functional as a spear. Certainly you wouldn't want to jab a part of Apotheosis into something like that, but it kind of looks a bit like between a staff and a spear, with some control over time, and you call it the Chronospear. And over the span of these few hours, you kind of build these what you would later call Idrilim, but you end up kind of finish this artificing here at this forge, and take your creations, and gather them all up. If there's anything else you need to do in here, by all means. Otherwise, you guys can head back to the ship.
I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. Then you have. Oops. Did you guys recognize? Probably not, just because it's so quiet. But like that's the same ambient. It's literally, I used all of the same things of when you guys were there on Drost and Westra. Do you remember any of it?
Yeah, well, I remember the waves crashing because we were in a part of the cave and we actually found where the waves were crashing up.
Yeah, had you gone a different direction, like had you not gone through that fungal room, you would have came across. It's literally the map I had you guys use was a different one of this map, but this was basically something like an artist's rendition of the same map, so it's the same rooms and everything. It just looks slightly different as far as like the drawing of it is all. Yeah, but it was the same place, of course. I don't know how much that you remember, but there's a reason that was the same place. I'd planned that back then, that this is where you guys would end up here. It just wouldn't be the same character, so it's not like something you would remember. But anyway, so you guys make your way back to the shoes to try to kind of hold out for a few days. Jack really wants to. Jack and Yorith both really have suggested that you guys need to hold on to these just for a couple of days, keep, separated on the shoes, but keep these to make sure that the signal that's coming out of them is not strong enough. And a day passes, and then two, and then a week, and the signal from each of these Idrilim is weakened to the point that it isn't escaping the prime material plane. The hunger doesn't have any way of finding you. And after a week, Yorith says, "Guys, I'm being cautiously optimistic here, but I think we might have done it. I think we may have escaped the hunger. I don't think he's coming."
Alright, well, we need to make damn sure that nothing happens to these and they don't get misplaced. That could have a lot of repercussions too.
Jack pipes up. He says, misplaced, kind of, but we can't keep them like this. I'm still afraid that if we keep them so close together, they'll kind of reform. There's a draw that comes out of these. It's the same draw that pulls other people towards it. That, if they stick, I think they might draw back to themselves, and then we'd be sending that signal out. We'd be starting all over again. We're going to have to see these out in the world just like we had planned.
Okay. We'll each go a different direction then.
He kind of nods. He says, "Yeah, I think that's what we'll need to do. For now, though, let's celebrate. I mean, it sounds like we finally made it after 100 years." So you guys spend the evening kind of just celebrating and having at least a decently warm time, considering the fraught journey you've had certainly over the last 30-40 years has been much worse, of course. But in the morning, though, you decide it's time to kind of put your relics out into the world to kind of satiate that craveability they've described. You each have yours, of course, and everybody's going to kind of take theirs wherever they're needing to go. So I kind of want to know, I guess, how you guys do that. Where do you go? Where do you take yours? Peter, yours is kind of already known. I don't know if you remember it as well, just because it's been a little while for you. But I mean, I have your notes here, of course. But at least for Ketis and Ivar, you guys will give me an idea, I guess, of where you want to take yours, where you would drop them. Well, Peter's, just as a reminder, how much do you remember, Taco?
Of Dry Gulch?
Yeah. So, like, remember the statue?
Yeah, the statue was me, and
yeah.
The worm was underneath there, and it was in the cave, and it was behind a magically sealed door.
Yep. So that following morning, as you guys kind of go your own ways, Drew takes each of you with the shoes and drops you off at these different locations. Drew, of course, doesn't have an eaterling to drop off, so he basically takes each of you and then intends to pick you up as soon as you guys are ready. But he takes you out into the middle of these yellow grasslands that are. You guys there? I'm hearing. Is that you guys, or is that something else?
What?
Okay, all right. I guess that's. I was hearing talking. It sounded like a voice, like a TV show or something. I don't know. It sounded like a conversation happening between a couple of people, like a dramatic version of anyway, like radio or something. I'm not sure. Anyways, I wasn't sure if it was actually people talking or if like Ben and Becky were talking or something. I couldn't tell. Say something, Becky.
Hello?
Oh, I'm hearing an echo. It's me. I was hearing my own voice.
Yeah, I'm sitting right next to her, so you might be able to hear your audio coming through her headphones on my mic or whatever.
Yeah, it sounded super removed. I couldn't tell what it was. It just sounded like two people talking, I thought, but anyway. So Drew takes you out, though, and drops you in these kind of yellow, dry grasslands. And you're wandering for a day, and then it's 2 days, and you're getting a little bit lost. In your haste, you didn't bring enough water or food. It's been 100 years since you really had to pay much attention to those kinds of things, and you're about to give up and just go back, just drop the chronosphere in any old place and then teleport back to the ship. But you eventually come across a man and his daughter, and they introduce themselves as Jack and June. Obviously not the same Jack from your ship, but these two folks from this little town, and they offer you water and they take you back to their town. And they're so kind to you, and that kindness is what tells you that these are people that you can trust with this thing. And so you spend a little time with them, helping out here and there, kind of getting to know the townsfolk, and without revealing who you are, still kind of altered slightly, but you think that this is a safe enough spot to drop yours. So Alice, she took the Oculus to Facebook and she sold it for like $2 billion. And Elsbeth, she found an abandoned village in a country called Pale, where she dropped it in a well. Much later, of course, it would end up in the hands of a madman that believed himself to be a scientist by the name of Morrow. We'll get to the others in a sec. Ketis, where did you take yours? We know that it shows up in Denrith Hold later on, but that doesn't, and then it's found by the dwarves and near Mahadrakam, but it doesn't, these things move a whole lot anyways, and you still have a long time before that happens, so, you can drop it anywhere.
I was actually going to say, I was thinking about taking it to the mountains somewhere, so that actually kind of fits anyway. We'll just pick it up later.
Sure.
So.
Right. So you make your way up into the mountains, and, we're just kind of enjoying the trip. You know that you're carrying something incredibly dangerous, of course, but the freedom almost of feeling like this could be home, like that kind of cautious optimism of feeling like this could be it, like you could be trekking on this mountain again in 30 years if you wanted to, things like that. You haven't had that kind of finality for a very long time, so it's something very, very peaceful and relaxing, even though that you know that you're carrying something that is utterly devastating over your shoulder. But you find a heavy outcropping and drop it there. On your way back down, you do notice that there's a tribe off in the distance of some very large humanoids that they don't appear to have noticed you in any way, but there's enough people around here to hopefully satisfy that craveability that will do what it needs to do, and you don't need to worry about it, sending out that signal to the hunger. Elsbeth, she takes her statera scales that she created and she leaves them in a thick forest that's inhabited only by fey creatures, where eventually, of course, it finds its way into the hands of this pair of very vain undead fey spirits who created this whole game around it that you guys ended up going through later. How about Navarro? Where did you take the vine lash?
Well, considering it's a vine, I'd probably take it out in the woods and like try to stick it up in a tree.
Okay. You find during that whole journey out there, you find an immense amount of peace that recognizing that so many of the creatures of this planet are very similar to the ones where you came from. They're not the same. The colorations are different. Sometimes, this creature will have 2 legs instead of 4, things like that. Insects are quite a bit different. You notice that there's these weird flying lizards that kind of resemble insects, things like that. But for the most part, it's so similar to what you found before that you could almost, if you squinted a little bit, feel like this is almost the same place. And that's a very comforting feeling where you kind of make your way out into the woods and leave this vine wrapped around a tree. On your way out, you see a small. You would probably, from where you came from, think them as midgets essentially, but you see these 2 very short people with faces that you can tell that they're definitely not children, but the faces look like children. And they don't seem to pay you much mind. You just seem like you're just any other person walking through the woods, beyond just kind of a polite wave. But they are kind of walking in the direction of where you've left the vine lash. But you make your way out of the woods and eventually back towards the ship. Jack takes the Caudicus ring and he takes it to a remote island far out into the ocean, and he leaves it in the branches from the tallest tree there. A decade later, it ends up back in Elsbeth's hands, and then she gives it to a young man named Oliver to research. Yorith takes the Firestorm cloak. She bundles it up into this kind of to a throwable shape, and then she football tosses that shit straight over the highest peaks into the mountains south of what you later learn is Mist. It would eventually end up in Yarno's hands, of course, and obliterate the entire town of Phandalin into a perfect disk of black glass. But between that now and where they eventually ended up, that's where we are still in the story. So basically, you've been on this planet for less than a week, actually a little over a week now, rather. And you've each kind of placed your relics out into the world. And at first, nothing seemed to happen. The world just kept turning. You and the crew stayed on the ship to kind of keep yourselves away just in case you needed to intercede in some way. Kept the shoes hidden from behind that white moon. You've since learned that the moon is called Andrus to avoid bringing any extra attention to these relics. It took some time for the thrall of those relics to find new owners, but soon after, the legends of them began to escalate. And they spread throughout the world, and the avarice that they sowed in people began to catch fire. And you all kind of know how this next part goes, of course, but after about 10 months since your arrival here on this planet, which you've learned is called the conflict that you've been calling the Relic Wars truly ignites, and the devastation that it wreaks is heartbreaking. Every part of this world, every band of adventurers, every mercenary guild, every kingdom has heard of these Idrulim, and the vast majority of those groups seek them out. And as you kind of remain hidden behind the moon every few weeks or so, you see a battle raging down below. And these relics they're unearthed, and then they change hands, and then they're squirreled away, and then that cycle begins all over again. But it's not just the conflict that's surrounding these relics that's so troubling. You also hear reports and see firsthand exactly what these relics are capable of, and they're capable of so much more than you assumed when you were making them. Maybe they're getting more powerful, or maybe it's just that now that they're in the hands of people that are willing to do these kinds of things, they can be used to so much greater effect than what you assumed. The Firestorm cloak, it surfaces every few months, and it leaves a circular glass scar on the planet's surface. Once it was the scene of one of these massive battles. Once it was just where the sleeping agrarian village once stood. There are reports of impossible things, impossible creatures, and other phenomena that are conjured into existence by the Oculus. There's these deadly, unceasing storms that shape overhead, and Ivara, it's the telltale sign of the Vine Lash's power. A string of cities that are built upon the Mondoran Isles, or Monodoran Isles rather, are drowned in minutes under the weight of one of these storms. There's only a couple instances of the Caudicus ring that are noted, but they're no less sad. The one that hits hardest, though, is the city of Armos. A child found the ring somehow and turned their home and everyone inside of that city to peppermint candy. Peter, your relic might be the least concerning and most concerning of all at the same time, because the Chronosphere, since it can change time itself, it kind of haunts you that not knowing what you don't know. that these changes could have rewritten things that you would never been able to realize. So you don't know how bad that could be, and that's both comforting and not at the same time. But the year passes, and the hunger never comes. And that, of course, is cause for celebration, but that weight of what you've done to this world is ever present and just always looming. And we're at that scene now. It's been a little over a year now that your team has arrived and is celebrating the success of this plan. You've staved off the apocalypse. You finally escaped. The hunger, as far as you can tell, is stopped from finding new worlds to devour. So the 8 of you and Cetus still on the ship. How are you guys celebrating with who? How are you reacting to the situation?
Cetus is going to have some drinks if there is any.
Okay. With anybody in particular? Just drinking by himself?
See if Elizabeth wants to have something.
Okay. What's Peter doing?
Just quietly celebrating, alone, in his own way, I guess, just kind of relaxing, smoking a pipe and having a small drink. But deep down inside, kind of a sense of unknown dread as to what I've done.
Okay. How about Navarra?
Probably just have a drink and hang out with Cetus.
All right. Cetus, you are hanging out with Elspeth, and she tells you, now that we're here and we have some time, I don't know. I think I want to learn a new craft. I think I want to work on this. I know. You guys have seen me paint a few times. I think I'm going to work on that. And she starts painting while you guys are kind of chatting back and forth, and kind of spending some time drawing something up. You guys kind of just chit chat and drink. You asking anything? You saying anything particular?
No, just asking her how she feels about the situation with the Idrilim, and I know it's bad stuff has happened, but it's probably better than obviously it's better than the hunger destroying the world. So
sure. She kind of nods. There's still a lot of melancholy there, and although it's been 10 or 12 years, I think, since this plan was concocted, maybe 8, she definitely let it go, and she knew she was outvoted and everything, of course, but she's made it clear that she still believes, that her plan could have potentially been the way to go. But she says, look, I think this is it. I think this is it finally, that this is life now. We've saved the world. It sure doesn't feel like that, but just it doesn't feel like there's any finale. Like it seems like there should have been a bigger bang, doesn't it?
It is kind of eerily quiet.
Sometimes in situations like this, anticlimactic stuff is best.
Are you? Yeah. Are you in the? You could be in the room with them, Peter. Like if you're just drinking in the corner and smoking a bit, in the corner, but still able to hear them. That's fine. Is that what you're doing?
I'm just kind of in my own world, but in the same room.
Okay. She kind of smiles at you. She says, yeah. It's weird though. It just anticlimactic for sure. But we traveled around for 100 years, and we didn't really have any place to call ours. And now that we're kind of stuck here, I can't stop feeling like we're technically homeless almost.
This place doesn't seem like it's too bad though. Might be able to make it here.
No, it seems wonderful. I don't know. Just think about it for a second. We've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for so long. Over a year now here, and we live on an airship. It's still really weird to me. Do you remember about 70 years ago? 70 years or so ago, 70 cycles, I just stopped learning math because everybody did math differently, and I just got tired of it. So I just stopped learning math. I'm going to have to learn the math here now. I'm going to have to make some sort of life here, but of all the places to call home, I don't know. It just seems weird.
I guess probably should get started on that, huh? Maybe not living in the airship for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. She says that. She says, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I almost feel like it's not right for us to really live in that world until we see how things play out. I'd feel guilty being a citizen in a world that I, poisoned. But she says, look, you guys are my family. Can I speak freely?
Of course.
She says she's put her paintbrush down. She says, look, I'm sorry, but I've been living 100 years with just the 8 of us, and 1 year with millions of people. I guess I kind of just got to the point where I was the one that I could focus on, because everybody else that I ever met, aside from the 7 of you, were just dust. They were just talking dust. So I started worrying a lot more about just our crew, because what was the fucking point?
Yeah, we do have to remember that things don't reset, so we got to be careful what we do now. We have to remember that we age too, and that we can actually die. So
her eyes kind of go wide, and she looks through the hallway where she knows that Yorth and Jack are. Kind of looks down the hallway towards them. She says, "Yeah, I mean, I guess it's still a little bit different for them, but I mean, we can't even be. Not that we were ever reckless, but we can't even be reckless anymore because there's no coming back." She shows you, after you guys have kind of had this conversation throughout this evening here, she shows you the painting that she's made, and this is what it looks like. Let's see, where did my notes go? In hanging out with Cetus and just having a few drinks and everything, Navarra, you sense there's certainly a lot of happiness coming from Cetus, but at the same time it feels like it wants to get out of here, like it wants to kind of go explore and learn new things. And it's something that you, of course, in all the time you've spent with this creature, you realize that it feeds on knowledge, it feeds on new information. You can't give it the same song over and over again. You have to make something new each time. And so it doesn't seem like it starves. It doesn't seem like it ever really, needs that nourishment, but it certainly uses it to grow, certainly. And it feels like it wants to go down to the surface and kind of be out there, but make an insight check on Navarra. You have, over the past couple of weeks before this, like you guys, those relics have been out there for over a year. Well, for at this point, almost 1 year. You basically put them out, less than 1 week away from 1 year is how long they've been out there. And throughout the last few weeks, as these kind of catastrophic occurrences on the surface have gotten, either escalated, but certainly maybe it's just a tiresome, you guys are getting tired of hearing about this and knowing that you're responsible for them. The feeling that you're getting from Elsbeth is getting more and more distant and a little bit strange, and she seems exceptionally protective of Cetus. In fact, that she's painting in the other room, and you can still like almost feel her eyes on you, that you're sitting here but interacting with Cetus. You are insanely aware that she knows that you're sitting and talking to Cetus, and that's on her mind, even though that she's not standing next to you or anything else. But something is definitely going on there that you are starting to get some suspicions about. But there's really not much to be said. It's not anything nefarious as far as you can tell. It certainly doesn't seem to be antagonistic or anything. But you kind of spend the evening just relaxing and hanging out with Cetus, and you're getting that feeling that Cetus wants to go and Elspeth won't let her, is what you feel like. Or won't let him, rather. He doesn't really have a male or female as a jellyfish, so I'm not really sure what genders look like for jellyfishes. Certainly not for alien jellyfishes. But time passes. You're still on the ship. You've kind of, between the general consensus is that you guys still need to kind of keep yourselves hidden just for a little longer until you kind of know for sure that the hunger's not coming. So you've been on this world now for 20 months, and the conflict over these relics shows no signs of stopping, nor does the occasional bit of devastation that they wreak on this world. And one morning, Yorth gathers everybody in the kitchen, and she seems just so tired. And she explains that during the night, a city called Cordelia was destroyed by the Firestorm Cloak, and estimates put the death toll in the mid-thousands. And Yorth tells you all with this stone-faced expression, and then adjourns the meeting, and everybody just kind of goes back to their quarters, except Navarre, you're still in there with her. Just you and she remain in this meeting chamber, and she just looks utterly heartbroken.
Well, not really her fault. I mean, we all agreed to this plan.
She's, without looking at you, she kind of nods. She says, I know, and it's all good. I mean, the hunger's not here, and the hunger's worse than anything we've done. I get all that. I can't help but ask if we made the right decision.
I mean, it really just comes down to either the entire planet gone or just some of the people gone.
She kind of grins a little bit, and it's like almost a morbid chuckle. She says, "You sound like me. I mean, that was the argument I used, if I remember right."
Exactly.
She says, "Nye, I couldn't have done any of this without you. I mean, I wouldn't have made it here without you. I know we don't say this often enough, but thank you."
Of course.
And that was the last conversation you ever had with your sister. When someone leaves your life, those exits are not made equal. Some are beautiful, some are poetic and satisfying, but others are just abrupt and unfair. And most of them are just unremarkable, just kind of unintentional and clumsy. And where Yorth went, she didn't intend to end up there, and she certainly didn't intend to spend as much time away as she did. And we'll get to that. Well, it was supposed to be near the end of this session, but it'll probably be next session. But from your perspective, though, Yorth was there, and the next day she wasn't. And you all searched for her, Jack, tirelessly, just painfully so. But she was nowhere to be found. And all you had to go on was this note that she left behind at this kitchen table, and the two-word message offered no clues to her whereabouts, but simply a promise that was left unfulfilled. It just said, "Back soon." And oops. Now we see Elsbeth in her private quarters, and she's working by candlelight in the soft glow from Cetus's tank. And she has one of her journals open in front of her, and this large well of black ink that's just uncorked and just sitting on her desk. And she reaches for a quill and then stops, and then instead she takes up a small brush. And she's had to do remarkably difficult things to survive this journey, but this was the hardest. In order for this plan to work, she would have to go over every single word of this record of your guys' mission, every word that she wrote in these journals, relive every moment of terror, pain, joy, loss, choose what to keep and what to erase. She spends entire weeks in her quarters during this time. This is the intuitive expression that Nyavara had picked up earlier of the kind of distancing that she was doing is not even subtle anymore. The time she spends in there, you don't see her much at all during this time. It's weeks that she's just gone, and she shapes your guys' memories and your lives in these kind of long, agonizing redactions. Ketis, the wrong one. It's the early afternoon now. On a day 2 years into your stay here, 4 months or so after Yorth has disappeared. And this is where you were when it happened. Ketis, you're spending some time with Drew, and you're all aboard the Hermian shoes still. But right now, it's just the two of you and Drew. What are you guys doing?
I don't know, maybe go... Are we still need to go? Oh, never mind, we already collected everybody. I don't know, just talking, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you guys.
Like where he's gonna go.
You could be playing cards. You could be, just hanging out and talking. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, actually, we'll play some cards with him and then ask him what he thinks where he's gonna settle down and what he wants to do now that we're essentially free.
He kind of grins a little bit. He says, the city, I don't know. There's so many different peoples down here, different cultures and things. I'm not sure where. But the big city that we kind of landed near, Mist, I think it's called, that seems, I don't know, seems like a fun place. After we spent so long being alone, I mean, there's so many people there that could be fun to meet new people finally.
It would be nice.
People
are actually there. They won't disappear after here.
Yeah. His eyebrows kind of raise at that a little bit, and he's looking down, throwing a card down or whatever. He says. He kind of stops for a second. He says, "Holy shit! I think it's my birthday." He says, "I guess we gotta start, be caring about that kind of stuff again." He says, "Oh wow, shit, Ketis, we're gonna get older now."
Yeah, we are. So happy 126th birthday, 127th birthday, something like that.
He chuckles. He says, "Do we even count those years? Is that fair?"
I don't know. I guess so. But it might be easier just to tell people that you're 27 or not 127,
He says, hang on.
They might not get it.
He says, hang on, let me take my shoes off. I think I'm gonna need all my toes and my fingers to count how old I am now. He's kind of chuckles. He says, nobody's ever had a life like ours before. There's no rule book. I don't know where to begin. Like, do you think we're gonna be able to have normal lives after this?
As normal as possible. I mean, we're never gonna forget what we've seen and what we've had to do, but maybe we won't have to do it anymore, so I mean, might as well be as boring as possible.
He kind of He kind of nods. He says, yeah, I mean, I guess, how do you, what do you want to do? How do you want to live? Like, the mission has been my whole life for a century. I don't really know what else to do. What do you want to do?
I was thinking ever since we got here on this planet, the plants are so similar to the ones where we came from, and maybe I'll, I don't know, sell them somehow. Maybe open a shop. Learn how to brew more potions. Open a shop or something.
That could be fun. It sounds like a nice, quiet life compared to the experiences we've had. As you guys are kind of going back and forth here and talking, he drops his cards, and he's blinking like really fast, and he kind of wipes his eyes for a second. He looks around a bit, and his breath is really quickening, like he's looking like he's about to go into a panic attack. He's panting really hard, and he says, "Yeah, wait, where am I? You're Ketis, right? I know you. What's going on?" And Ketis, you see this panicked guy in front of you, and you want to help this guy out, but this guy, you can't remember who he is, and you see out the windows and you're up in the sky, and you don't remember why. You can't remember those either. The details of this, the memories of your homeworld, your time on the ship, your conversations in Parley with Odin, they're all fading, and everything's fading, and the world is coming down around you, and you're lost, and everything is just static. And Nivara, you are spending that day, or at least this moment, with Jack. And you're up on the deck of the shoes, just sort of looking out around at the world below. And as you come out onto the deck, these scenes are happening at the same time. And as you come out onto the deck, you see Jack is standing over this table, and he's had dragged out here, and he's pinned down this map. And he's showing you the locations where he searched for Yorth, that you both, between the two of you, have kind of been searching constantly for. There's red X's all over this map of different places that you've gone, trying to find clues for her and so on. And he's kind of leaned over, and his head's in his hands, and you see that he's just nodding off a little bit. He's just so tired, and he's been at this for so long. What do you do?
I'll tell him that we should probably take a rest because we're not going to be any good trying to find her if we're falling asleep on our feet. Wherever she is, she's not going to go anywhere. She's a lich, so.
He kind of startles, when you've started talking. He says, "Oh yeah, I guess so, isn't she? I don't know. I think I need to go at least tonight. I mean, I found this cave that's out behind the Morden Wilds. There's a subterranean tunnel there, and there's a bunch of arcane energy coming off of it. I was gonna go check it out tonight. Do you want to, if you want to come with?"
Sure. But then I'm gonna make you rest in the morning.
What's that?
Then I'm gonna make you rest in the morning.
He says that's fair. And he kind of points on the map there, and you see these black circles drawn all over where the Firestorm Cloak has burned those obsidian discs. And his cave that he's pointing to is pretty well within, or it's fairly close anyways, to one of those circles. And then he kind of turns and looks up at you. He says, "Nye, what if she's just gone?"
Well, she can't be just gone.
But if she could come back, she would have. You can see he's obviously looks very scared and like panicked, like just desperate, really.
Okay, so she may be trapped somewhere, but that doesn't mean that we can't go get her. It doesn't mean she's gone.
He kind of nods a little bit and looks back down to the map. You can see from the angle, you can see his eyes a little bit. He's kind of looking down at the map, and his eyes start to go wide. He says, "Oh, Etch, Nye, where are we? Oh God, Yorth, Nye, I can't remember her face. Nye, where is Acetus?" And sure enough, you start to feel it too. Your home planet, those ape-wolf creatures that you and Yorth made a name for, the mushroom world where you rescued Ketis, the best day ever for your sister. All these memories are beginning to fade, and they're nearly gone. Jack stands up straight, and he says, "Jack, Nye, just kill me right now. Just I'll remember if I'm a lich. Just please, just kill me, okay? It'll be okay. I'm begging you, please, just kill me."
Okay.
So you blast him with lightning bolts or something, a spell of some kind, and he's knocked backwards by your spell. And up against this railing of the shoes on the deck there, he kind of looks, you run over to the railing, he's kind of beginning to fall over, and he looks up at you, and you see this kind of brief pained smile of recognition on his face as he's toppling backwards over and off the ship. And as his body falls further and further down, you realize that you don't remember who he is. and you look around the deck of this ship that served for your home for 100 years, and you realize that you don't know where you are, and you don't know how you got here, and everything is static. And now we will go to Peter. But again, these are all occurring at the same time, of course. But Peter, you've been worried about Elspeth. She's been spending so much time hiding away in her quarters that nearly every hour of every day, you've brought her something to try and cheer her up. What did you bring her?
Little trinkets that we picked up along the way, just to kind of help her remember the good times and the adventures.
Okay. So you kind of go in, arms full of these trinkets into her little quarters, and you walk in. You see that she's kind of lit by the glow of Cetus's tank, and she turns to face you, and she has tears in her eyes. And behind her, floating in that tank, wrapped in Cetus's tendrils, is a thick blue book that's bound with silver trim. You see one of her journals, one of her ever-present journals she was always carrying, and it's being consumed by the Dellin's cap. And immediately, the details of your journey are beginning to blur and vanish one by one. Your research in helping create the Alcubierre drive, your studies on the blue crystal from the Titusian's world, your time with the raw power of Recondita's Rill, where it had sliced into that planet, and that jellyfish that's floating in the tank. What is that thing? And Elsbeth speaks, and she says, "Oh, Etch, Peter, no, you weren't supposed to see this. Oh, I'm so sorry, Peter. Peter, just please, just for a little bit. I'm gonna stop this. What we've done to this world. I'm gonna find a place where you can be happy again, just for a little while, and then you'll remember. I promise. And I can do. I can do this, Peter. Just please, just lie down. I don't want you to fall and hurt yourself. I'm sorry. It'll all be over soon."